All right, today we're diving into 2 Kings, and let me tell you, this ancient historical chronicle is just packed with civil war, incredible divine showdowns, and this ultimate clash between prophets and kings. It's a story where challenging a man of God could get you burned, and I mean that literally.
So, we start with the absolutely fearsome prophet Elijah. You've got this arrogant king, Ahaziah of Israel, who decides to consult a foreign god. He's not just breaking a rule here, he is playing with fire. And when he sends his soldiers to go and get Elijah, well, he gets a terrifying lesson in what real power looks like. You have to understand, this quote, it's not some empty threat, it's more like a weather forecast in a world where divine authority is lethally real.
I mean, you'd think the king would get the message, right? The first captain shows up, makes his arrogant demand, and poof, he and his men are incinerated. So what does the king do? Incredibly, he sends another captain, who makes the exact same mistake and gets the exact same fiery result. It's only the third captain who finally gets it. He shows up with humility and, a healthy dose of fear. He doesn't command. He pleads for his life. The message is just brutally clear. When you are dealing with this kind of power, arrogance is a death sentence.
Now, a guy like Elijah, he's not just going to fade away. His exit has to be just as spectacular as his life. He doesn't die, he ascends. As he's walking with his successor, Elisha, suddenly a chariot of fire and horses of fire just tear through the sky, and Elijah is swept up into heaven in a whirlwind. This isn't just an exit, it's a kind of coronation of his entire legacy, and it leaves a massive weight of expectation on the guy he left behind.
So with Elijah gone, the mantle, and yeah, that's both literal and figurative, it falls to his apprentice Elisha. But think about it. How in the world do you follow a legend? A guy who called down fire from the sky and then rode a fiery chariot into heaven. Elisha now has this huge task of proving to everyone that the power of his master really does rest on him now.
Right before Elijah leaves, he asks Elisha, hey, what can I do for you? And Elijah's request is it's audacious. He asks for a double portion of Elijah's spirit. Now, this isn't just him being greedy for more power. This is the legal language of a firstborn son's inheritance. He's asking to be the primary heir to the entire prophetic mission, and his request is granted. So what's the very first thing he does? He takes Elijah's cloak, walks up to the Jordan River, strikes the water, and boom, the waters part, just like they did for his master. The proof is immediate.
And the miracles that follow just show the incredible range of this power. It's not all about these huge, flashy moments. One minute, he's purifying an entire city's water supply. The next, he's multiplying a poor widow's oil to save her family from being sold into slavery. He can be deeply personal, like making a borrowed axe head float, or he can be terrifyingly harsh, cursing a group of youths who mock him. And he can be a provider, feeding 100 men with just a little bit of food. Through it all, one thing becomes crystal clear. Elisha's authority is now absolutely undeniable.
But look, this kind of power, it doesn't just exist in a vacuum, right? It's all setting the stage for the main event, the central conflict that really defines this entire book. It's this high-stakes, dangerous Game of Thrones between these men of God and the corrupt, ambitious kings who almost never want to listen.
And when you boil it all down, you're looking at two totally different kinds of power. On one side, you've got the king. He's got armies, chariots, political influence. He can build cities. It's all very tangible, earthly power. But then, on the other side, you've got the prophet. He commands the elements. He has divine insight. He can anoint and, maybe more importantly, dethrone kings, and he can completely suspend the laws of nature. It's this epic battle between the temporal and the divine. And believe me, it's about to get very personal.
And word gets around. The prophet's fame starts to spread way beyond Israel's borders. And this is where we meet a guy named Naaman. He's a big deal, a top Syrian general, a mighty man of valor, but he's got leprosy. So here's about this prophet in Israel, and he travels with a literal fortune in gold and silver, expecting, the royal treatment and some kind of grand, expensive cure. But get this, Elisha doesn't even come out to meet him. He just sends a messenger with this simple, almost insulting instruction. Go wash in the muddy Jordan River 7 times. And Naaman is furious. Can you blame him? He was expecting a magical spectacle, not an order to go take a humble bath in a dirty river. His pride is completely wounded, and he's ready to just storm off. It actually takes his own servants to talk him down, saying, look, if he'd asked you to do something hard, you would have done it. Why not just try this simple thing? He does, and he's healed. And this is where the prophet's role takes a really shocking and violent turn. See, a prophet's job isn't always to heal people or give advice. Sometimes, by divine command, it's to start a revolution. Elisha kicks off a full-blown political coup. He sends a young prophet with a flask of oil to anoint Jehu, an army commander, as the new king, with one very explicit instruction: completely destroy the corrupt ruling house of King Ahab. What happens next is just a whirlwind of brutal, calculated violence. Jehu is anointed in secret, and his fellow commanders immediately declare him king. He rides so furiously toward the city of Jezreel that the watchmen recognize him from a distance. Once there, he personally shoots King Joram of Israel through the heart with an arrow. He has the visiting king Ahaziah of Judah hunted down and killed. He confronts Queen Jezebel, has her thrown from a window, and her body is trampled by his horses. Then, to complete the mission, he arranges for all 70 of the former king's sons to be executed. This wasn't a change in leadership. This was a purge, a total wipeout, all set in motion by a prophet and a flask of oil.
But here's the thing. A violent coup doesn't actually solve the root problem. Despite all his zeal, Jehu and the kings that follow him just keep leading the northern kingdom of Israel down the same wrong path. The prophetic warnings don't stop, but they are consistently ignored. And this cycle of defiance is heading for the ultimate consequence.
And this is the year it all comes crashing down. Around 722 BCE, the mighty Assyrian Empire, this absolute superpower, sweeps in. They lay siege to the capital city, Samaria, for 3 years, and then they conquer it. And just like that, the northern kingdom of Israel is gone, wiped off the map. After centuries of warnings, it just ceases to exist.
The book doesn't mince words about why this catastrophe happened. This wasn't just a military defeat, the text frames it as a divine judgment, a direct consequence of their choices. The list of charges is long and specific. They'd served idols, adopted pagan practices, even practiced child sacrifice. But the real kicker, the final nail in the coffin, was this. They had consistently ignored the warnings sent by all the prophets. The bill had finally come due.
Now, the Assyrians had this policy. It was brutal, but it was effective. They would deport the elites and the skilled workers to other parts of their empire, and then move in other conquered peoples to take their place. So these new inhabitants, they bring their own gods, but they're also kind of spooked by the god of the land, so they start to worship him too. You get this religious mix, this syncretism, and that blending of traditions, well, that's basically the origin story of the people who would later become known as the Samaritans.
Okay, so the northern kingdom is gone, but the story isn't over yet. The southern kingdom, Judah, is still standing, although, honestly, it's teetering on the exact same path of corruption. And it's here, in these final chapters, that we get this incredible, powerful story about what can happen when a leader finally decides to actually listen. So there's this righteous king, Josiah, and he starts a project to repair the national temple, which has been neglected for who knows how long. And in the middle of these renovations, the high priest finds something that will shake the kingdom to its absolute core. Buried away, forgotten for generations, is the Book of the Law. I mean, this is their foundational text, their national covenant, their laws, their very identity, and it had been lost.
And to really get how big of an earthquake this discovery causes, you just have to look at the stark contrast between Josiah and his own grandfather, Manasseh. I mean, the text paints Manasseh as one of the most wicked kings they ever had, rebuilding pagan altars and filling Jerusalem with innocent blood. Josiah is his polar opposite. He's doing what is right, tearing down those same altars and recentering the entire kingdom on the law. It just goes to show you how wildly a nation's fate can swing based on the character of its leadership.
So, when they finally read this newly discovered book to Josiah, his reaction isn't relief or excitement, it's pure horror. He literally tears his robes, a sign of profound grief. He immediately understands that the curses and warnings written in that book aren't just ancient history. They apply directly to his people right now. He realizes they are standing on the brink of the same judgment that destroyed the northern kingdom, and he is terrified of the great wrath they provoke.
But that terror doesn't paralyze him, it galvanizes him. He doesn't just sit there and grieve, he acts. Decisively and comprehensively, he gathers the entire nation and has the book read to all of them, making them confront their own history. He leads them in renewing their covenant, and then he unleashes a complete top-to-bottom purge of every single pagan influence in the kingdom, cleansing the temple, smashing idols, defiling sites of child sacrifice. It is the most sweeping religious reform in the nation's history, all sparked by the rediscovery of a single forgotten book.
And that leaves us with this final, crucial question. The story of 2 Kings is filled with these powerful prophets and corrupt kings, but it really culminates in this one moment of rediscovery with Josiah. It asks us to consider the immense power of foundational ideas. Can finding a lost text, a forgotten truth, truly be enough to reverse generations of decline and actually set a nation on a new course? That's the challenge, and the sliver of hope left at the end of this epic story.
Thanks for watching.